Welcome to another video. In our last one, I told you how to make a simple 3D movement by using vectors and changing them using the new vector. So in this video, I'll be teaching you a few ways which you can improve and change your movement to suit your likings. So let's get started. What I have done here is made a simple scene with a plane and a box, and I've just created a player movement script that I'm gonna connect to the player right now and double click to open the script. So far, this is what we have done basically in the last video. We've learned how to set a vector 3 and then taking that into update, getting only the last digit which is z because it's x, y, and z takes in 3 values, and just plussing 1 to it. And that's all we did in the last video basically, and we just set the position of our object to the player. And right now, this is what we wrote in the last video. If you don't know what's happening, I'll be linking a card on the top right hand corner of the video, so you can go watch later. So we did xyz, that's the variable name, dot z is taking the last value equal to that value plus 1. And this is exactly what it's doing, but in a more simplified form. So the variable name and the position we want to take it. So dot z, the third one, and plus plus. This is basically the entire right hand half of the code done. And the left part is just setting the position of the object to the vector we just set. So right now, if you guessed, this code should make our cube zoom all the way to the end of the plane. And you might see at the start of the game, the cube gets immediately teleported somewhere in the middle of the plane and then starts moving. That is because if you look at this code carefully and think about the logic behind it, it is adding on to a position which is a vector 3, and a default vector 3 is obviously 0, 0, 0, and it's adding 1 to only the z. So at the start you will see that if I select the player and run this, you will see on the right hand side over here that it's 0, 0, and then just changing the z only, because a default vector 3 is 0, 0, 0, but instead all we did is change the y to plus 1. So what we want to do is get our start method back, and this is what we want to put, setting the vector 3 to equal to the transform position of the object. So basically what the object is at its current position. So right now the object is at this position, so we're saving it into this vector 3, and then we're changing 1 based off this current value. So let's save this and see what happens. And you'll see that the cube starts smoothly moving around across the entire plane. And I've just made a simple setup where I extended the plane from the start of the video, and I simply drag a main camera onto the player, so it's now a child of the player. Going back into our code, I said I was going to teach you how to move this cube smoothly into the direction you want. So in the update, this is also referring to another video I made, the input video. So if and then I'll put input dot get key down, or get key, both are fine. So I'll get key for now, and I'll put key code, for example, space. So key code dot space. And what we want to do is put this entire code into this section of the if statement. So now if I press down space, the cube will move. Sorry, let's save and move the cube. So if I press space, this moves. If I press space, this moves. Right there. And you don't see much of a movement, so let me just add some little things on the track so it seems like it's moving. That's a point of reference. So now we're back, and right now, as you can see, the movement is basically what we wanted to do. So it's adding 1, so it's moving smoothly across the entire plane. When we press down the key and we let go, it just stops. You can use this to make simple movement within your game. And as for the snappy movements that I showed you in the last video, you just simply change this to get key down, and it will only change its position once every time you press down the spacebar. So you get in that nice and snappy moving. So every time I press 1, it snaps once, twice, 3 times. So, and then for this, what you can do is simply just add a public variable. Let's call it int. What I can't spell, public, and we'll call it movement inc for increments. So we can just take this and set it to default of a 5 if I can type. And then for now, and then we need to change this because we are no longer just adding 1, so we can just change this back to the same thing, movement vector plus, and we just put our movement in. So movement increments, which is equal to 5. There we go. Let me add .z. Okay, so going back into Unity, you see that it's automatically given us a field, and we can change this however we want. So let's see now. See now the cube moves much more further every time I press the space. And as for changing the value, you simply just change whatever you want here. So for example, I want a 10, and you will see that it moves in big, like larger increments now every time I press space. Let's try 20, even larger, and let's try 30, and boom 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 boom, and you'll see the end comes very quickly with the 30 increment movement. Yeah, so you can make some really quirky movement with this simple code, and it's very flexible. You can change this to whatever you want. So you can change this to the jump height, and you can change different key presses. For example, if you want to move the cube when you leave the key up, so when you leave the key, the cube moves, for a very interesting and unique game mechanic. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and it's helped you in some way, and I'll see you next time. Bye.